There will be different purohitas of different communities. They come and perform different kinds of function, depending upon where this kola is happening, where this bhuta performance is happening. How can you say bhuta is not my god? It is not my Daiva. I mean, come on. This looks like a joke from somebody who knows South Canada so well. There are Daiva for which we offer Naivedya and vegetarian. There are different kinds of things we do. But do we have this hierarchy that we do? This is lower caste, this is upper caste, this is lower Daiva. No, this is exactly what in 19th century anthropologists, ethnographers, and British thinkers, Indologists, they saw about India. Do you think that Panjurli is not part of my life? I don't belong to South Canada because the number of years my connection with South Canada, I studied there. I mean, how can you say that it is not part of my life? I mean, you are making comment derogatory remarks on my tradition.
Hello, a very good evening. Very good evening. Welcome back to Swarajya Conversations with me, Sharan Shetty. I'm very privileged to be joined by MS Chaitra ji, who needs no introduction at all. For anything that happens in Karnataka, whether it's cultural or political, he is one of the tall standing authorities. Chaitra ji, thank you so much. Namaskar and
Namaskara.
So one of the controversies obviously revolves around the recent movie Kantara, and for a week I was almost disappointed. Disappointed because there were no controversies being created around Kantara, and finally when I watched it once, I did not understand certain parts of it, so I went back to the theater and I watched it twice again. And I came back home and I'm opening my Twitter and I felt so happy seeing that people were dissatisfied. Certain people were dissatisfied with the movie. So Chetraji, it's good that you're here because I was hoping that you can break a lot of myths and the accusations against Kantara movie. The first accusation being that it appropriates a lot of Bahujan and Adivasi traditions with the Hindu Dharma, that many of these practices, whether it is Daivaradhane or Bhoota Kola, a few practices that is associated with the movie and how it is depicted are not Hindu by nature, is what the accusations are.
See, this is, thank you, Sharon, for calling me to this conversation. See, this is something actually quite a disgusting kind of reviews on this movie has been seen recently, at least from last few days, on this particular movie. Now, the initial response of some of these people was that this movie was, Brahmanical, Vaidika, etc. But suddenly, by looking at the increasing popularity of this movie, those people initially they took the stand that this is a bad movie, started changing, and say there are a lot of things which have come, and one of the standard thing is, which is the story that has been narrated by many, saying that the Bhoota Kola tradition that we have in South Canada, the people who are familiar with Mangalore, Udupi part would know that there is such a practice, and such a practice. Uh, Many people, I mean, this is a old argument that anthropologists and others have been trying to push, saying that this is not a Hindu practice. Now, there is something very peculiar about this claim. Now, if you look little carefully at what these people are narrating, see, in order to make such a claim, what does it mean to say it is a Hindu practice or not a Hindu practice? Now, it requires you to have some kind of an understanding of what this Hindu pointing towards, right? Now, to say a particular practice is not a Hindu practice or a Hindu practice, you have to assume that something is a religion or not a religion. Now, one of the fundamental assumptions that these people have been trying to make is that there is something called a Hindu religion, and the story doesn't end there.
Correct.
Now, therefore, this Hindu religion basically means what? Vaidika religion. Some would say it is Vaidika religion, some would call even Brahminical religion. Now, what this Hindu religion is, if you read the academic scholarship, now Hinduism is a religion, and what is this religion? This is very amorphous. Nobody knows how to recognize this religion, and yet there exists a religion. I mean, this is the claim. Now, if you otherwise look at in general, you know, how the word Hindu gets used. it is pointing to people who live in India. I mean, the India name of India was Hindustan, for example. It was all foreigners used to call this as Hindustan. The people who lived around until down south, etc. I mean, this has been the name that Hindu represents a group of people. Hindu points towards a group of people who live in this place, which includes Muslim, Christians, etc. Therefore, Hindu as such does not point to anything which is religious. Now they wanted to assume that they, as though they understand what religion is and what is the nature of Hindu religion is, they wanted to superimpose that and then say, and it gets, over imposed with another thread called the, Hinduization of the tribal tradition.
Hmm.
Now, see, all these terms, if you look at who are the tribes, I mean, if you look at the writings on India, the word tribe, for example, was first time used on Brahmins. When Europeans came to India, they saw Brahmins were tribes. Okay. From there, the word tribe also has changed over a period of time. Now, in India, we have multiple names for it: Budakattu, Adivasi, Janjati. I mean, we really don't know what does this really means. Now, there are group of people, not necessarily one jati, multiple group of people perform, various, Bhutaradhane in our part of Karnataka. You have Kalorati, Panjurli. I mean, many such bhutas which are there, which is a standard ritual practice. And who participate? From Brahmin to all other jatis that you can think of, everybody participate. They have some role or the other to play depending upon the place, the context, etc. Now, what are the claims that is made? This particular practice is something that pre-Hindu practice. Okay.
Yes,
Now that
predates
assumes that,
Hindu Dharma,
yeah,
correct.
yeah. So that means, I mean, the word dharma, etc., gets used, but it is about Hindu religion. I mean, there is no other meaning that you can actually impose on that. So Hindu religion, it came as something new, and it attacked and it took over all these whatever something called local cultures, and this must have come from somewhere. And only historical evidence for this Hindu religion to come from outside comes from 17th century European writing. There was a thesis in 18th century, very clear thesis that Europeans, not just British, Europeans were discussing, largely French people were discussing, is this Hindu conquest of India. That there were a group of people who came. So this Hindu conquest thesis, get transformed into Aryan invasion thesis by 19th century. It predates all the names that you guys talk about, Caldwell, etc., etc. I mean, it's
Right.
much older story.
Okay.
So it's part of that they came. Now they told this story. This is how Europeans experienced it. See, we must understand it very carefully. Imagine that Charan and Chaitra are talking to each other, and I developed certain opinions about Sharon's reaction to something. Okay, now does that say anything about Sharon or does that say about Chaitra? Because if I say Sharon is a very bad thing, I mean bad person, because we both are interacting and I don't know much about it. I want to make sense of your action. Depending upon the perspectives that I have, I actually characterize you as bad or good. It doesn't say much about Sharon, but it tells more about Chaitra. What does he think? So the Europeans, when they came, when they saw, they looked India, they tried to understand India from the experiences that they had from their culture, and they tried. They only could see religion because they had religion, and we were the people who didn't have religion. So they started. That's why they saw so many religion. So they saw Hindu religion, Buddhist as a religion, Jainist. So if you look at Chetan's interview, Chetan Ahimsa's interview,
Yeah.
now you say there are so many religions. How many religion? Maybe some 300, 400, 500 religion. That's a mockery of this idea of religion, right? So now these Hindus have come outside. Who are these Hindus? Basically Brahmins. Though there is ambiguity when they talk about Brahminical, etc., etc. There is the story that, there are some group of people, Sanskrit speaking, they have come from outside and they have cornered all these people as though, these people were incapable of fighting and they were all pushed into some corner. And they came
Yes.
and told some Sanskrit mantra and everybody accepted it. And these people started assimilating these local gods, etc. I mean,
In
see,
fact, that was
this
one
is
of the
once.
points which was made by one of the critiques, saying that how can a Samskrita shloka be used in a movie that is based out of Tamil Nadu or something like that?
I mean, that is the only standard story. Because if you go to South Canara, now people who know Samskrita shloka, they use it, they learn it. I mean, there is no such. I mean, all the story that Brahmins denied Samskrita to Well, you see, these are claims which appears very interesting. But people who wanted to learn Sanskrit shloka, chant Sanskrit shloka, they. I mean, in fact, some of the rituals around the Bhuta tradition, there will be some Brahmin Purohita. There will be different Purohitas of different communities. They come and perform different kinds of function, depending upon where this kola is happening, where this Bhuta performance is happening. Right now, just to give you some stereotypical picture that there is this upper caste guard and this lower caste guard. I mean, see, this doesn't make any sense, and our people don't see, something as the lower caste guard, something as the upper caste guard. I mean, we all go to all of the temple. We have common functions. Where to go, how to go, where to participate is something that we know locally, and it changes from one place to another place. Now, basically, this entire criticism is not about movie. In fact, in order to participate in such a discussion, you don't even need to watch this movie, Kantara. Because see, this is the story. See, the story of Hinduism, Hinduization of India, Hindu conquest of India, Aryan invasion story. See, these are themes which were developed in the British
Correct.
period, and that story, which was British, that is how British experienced, Europeans experienced India. Now, this particular story became the social scientific story. This is what we learn in our university. This is what we are taught in our university. And we repeat this story. Now, you remove Kantara and put any basis. There are some people who have also made something like this than KGF movie. Any movie you can
Yeah.
take and take randomly, because you see, it cannot be true about this world. No, since it is nothing to do with this world, neither true nor false about this world. This is some kind of a random rambling. This is experience maybe to Europeans. For me and you, this, I mean, we can't connect with this. How can you say Bhuta is not my god? It is not my Deva. I mean, come on. This looks like a joke from somebody who knows South Canada so well. We all participated in the ritual process, right? So this makes it a mockery of how unscientific the social scientific knowledge is, and these ideologues keep actually talking about it. It's just that they wanted to throw this story of the
Yeah.
colonial description once again, and Kantara was a site for that.
There's a tweet which says, I have many, many thoughts after watching Kantara, but most significantly, equating Panjurli Daiva with Vishnu or Varaha is a blunder. It's an attempt at appropriating folk traditions of Tulunadu. I wish Tuluvas would get more offended by this rather than make memes about it.
See, we may take that tweet very seriously. I mean, take that and try to think about it. See, tell me, what is the difference between any daiva that we have? When see in our life, we know, for example, there are daiva for which we offer naivedya in non-veg. There are daiva for which we offer naivedya in vegetarian. There are different kinds of things we do. But do we have this hierarchy that we do? This is lower caste, this is upper caste, this is lower deva. No, this is exactly what in 19th century anthropologists, ethnographers, and British thinkers, Indologists, they saw about India. Now they came and they looked at it and they saw, because see, the fundamental point is this: for Christian missionaries and Christian thinkers, when they came from their experience, there was only one true God in the world, and all others were false God.
Right,
Now, so all gods of us is a false god, basically, right? In that, the only point of distinction was that the gods which are known through the world of the Vedika traditions are associated with Brahmin traditions. Now, these traditions fundamentally were, Hindus, and they carried this Brahminical Hinduism from somewhere in the Central Asia, whatever part of it, and they came and subjugated the local gods. So there were local gods which are very different. That's why there are all kinds of. See, I can go on to explain how this notion of God, which is fundamentally Christian, who stays outside the cosmos, comes and interferes in the way describing our gods. See, our
right,
gods were not outside the cosmos, because you see, look at our devatas, right? No, they came and married human beings. They had all kinds of affairs. They did all kinds of things in this world, good, bad, everything. They are not outside this cosmos,
right,
right? I mean, they were part of it, and so Vishnu goes and deals with Rakshasa, Manushya, everything. Indra comes, does something here. I mean, all our gods were like that. So then one can ask this question: that what is this conception of God that we have? Now, you see, you should look at this very seriously. See, my guru, Professor Balgangadhar, actually tried and made an attempt to explain this. See, all human beings fundamentally are in the quest of Ananda, right? Ananda comes from certain kind of knowledge. So there is a particular domain which he characterizes as para. In our traditions, we characterize this. Now, this is about Ananda, this is about knowledge, etc. In order to acquire, people take different routes. And our devatas are actually fundamentally are the way to find para. Or all our devatas are part of the para. But what we do is, since everybody cannot simply conceptualize something, which doesn't exist, which you can't see, etc. So you created something which is in the world, some kind of a statue, some kind of a symbol, etc., in a particular way, which is humanly impossible kind of a thing. It appears it has some connection with human or something that you know in this world, but it could not possibly exist. Kind of a creature that is being created, and that is used for puja. I mean, in some sense, there is a particular orientation that is being created to reflect about how to be happy in this world. There is a whole world that is created. So in that world, to think about para, you create another 1000 god, another 10,000 god, another 1 crore god, doesn't matter
Right.
to us. Our devatas are of this kind. In this devata, you can't have hierarchy that something is great, something is low. I mean, all these things are not there. So you take one road, from there you wanted to access Ananda, and in order to do that, how do you organize your life, what you should do is what exactly you acquire, by engaging. Our devatas have nothing to, none of our devatas have come and ordered you should do this, you should not do this, this is idolatry. I mean, none of our gods have told this. So therefore, there is a different conception of devata that we have in our world. And whether it is Panjurli or Kolorati or the Adi Parashakti, or I mean, South Canara is full of temples, full of gods, all kinds of deities.
Correct.
I mean, they're all there coexisting. Why should there be a problem? I mean, this is something. See, in our experience, it is not there. All that story that these people have said, no, Brahmins have come historically, or you need to have historical proof. No, where is the historical proof? There is no such proof existing. Nobody can prove that. These are some kind of a third class interpretation, and we
Right.
we have sold this story and we have been buying this story. Now, this is nothing to do with what we do. In fact, I must tell you on a very funny note. Now, you see, I spoke to a lot of people when this discussion around Kantara happened. And I will give you some examples. Some people told me I discovered something strikingly unbelievable. So, some people who have not gone to theater for 20 years now have gone there. I asked them, why did you go? They told me, they showed me certain Facebook profiles. These people wrote about Kantara as a very bad movie. Okay. Or they criticized like this. Since these people have criticized like this, it must be good. So that was due for them to go. In fact, one of the very interesting thing offshoot I will tell you. So these people are trying to link this entire Kantara with some kind of a politics associated with RSS, Sangh Parivar, etc.
Yeah.
Right. Now, one of the biggest advantage that in last few years that Sangh Parivar has, with all the kind of scathing, bad criticism, etc. So there are standard profiles when they write it. A lot of people actually, there a lot of these critics are recruiting more people for RSS. Because
Yeah.
every time when people read like this, a large number of people when they read about their Panjurli like this in South Canada, they will be fuming, they will be upset. Naturally, you create more sympathizers,
Yeah.
for this kind of a climate. I mean, this is exactly is what is happening there.
One more angle that has been given to this is that, no, obviously, even Dr. B.R. Ambedkar refuted a lot of the claims that, his successors have been doing, or his, people who parade in his name have been doing so far. But that aside, one of the narratives is that the Moolnivasis, Adivasis, Bahujans have never fought for Hindu Dharma, that they have been imposed in a certain way many, many years ago. And what the Brahmins and the other upper castes fought for was was based in self-interest, and that there is a clear divide between certain communities within the Hindu fold.
See, this comes back to the earlier point that I was making.
Yeah.
See, none of us, see, we don't understand what religion is, first. Now, it is not necessary that we understand every damn thing on this earth. But, you see, the see we have started using the language of religion without knowing what the hell it is. See what we were doing. We have been historically for 200-300 years. I mean, if you go back, easily you will be able to track, listen to your grandfather and get another 100 years back history.
Yeah.
And we have been participating in a range of rituals. Now, different communities have maintained different rituals. Simple. So it is not the question of fighting for it or not fighting for it. Now, neither anybody appropriated it. And the very nature, see, we were sampradayas, we are traditions. Now, what is the nature of tradition? See, look at it. See, I am a Smarta Brahmana, but I can also at the same time be Sai Baba Bhakta. I can also be Sadguru Bhakta. I can be part of multiple Sampradaya at the same time. And tomorrow, if I want, I can also add Shabrimala Sampradaya. And we Indians are known to have. So somebody tells me you go and do this Vaibhav Lakshmi Puja. We are very happy to add it to our kit. Somebody else says this. And my son will actually accumulate all of them, leave something and keep more. I mean, this is what we constantly do.
Right.
Now, if you look at all our communities, there is nothing fixed to one group or the other. For example, can you say this is exactly is fixed to Brahmin? No, I mean, you cross two hills and see Brahmin rituals also changes over a period of time. Now, we are the people who keep adding more things from different tradition, and we have no conflicts between multiple traditions. See, we make fun of each other. See, that's a different issue. We keep cribbing about it. That doesn't mean that we hate each other, we kill each other. We don't do that. So it
Yeah.
is our conventional practice that we have been. So therefore, this entire idea of saying, some people didn't defend, somebody has self-interest. What self-interest Brahmins will have? Now, if you read some of the old critiques of the 19th century, it's a Pule, etc., have written. See, he's saying Brahmins have done it because they wanted Dakshina, Dana, etc. Oh, really? I mean, that looks a hilarious argument to really see.
Yeah.
I mean, 3% people control. Really? I mean, every time I am astonished that Brahmins are such a powerful people, even today. I mean, you go and look at their socio-economic status. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, at least see in my life, last 40 years, I have never seen them as a flourishing community. If there were no IT, that certainly this would not have been a flourishing community at all. Okay, I mean they do whatever they want. Not that they are unhappy about what they are doing. I mean
Correct.
they are happily doing whatever they were doing. So this entire argument is saying that this group has come, and assimilated all the local tradition and converted. What for? What interest? I mean, you can't explain what I say. At the end of the day, only third class argument is to say you wanted to control. What Brahmins control and whom? Do you think that people will listen to Brahmin and do all the activity? I mean, where on this earth you would see that? So, see, these are some cock and bull story. But the worst part of it is this that you have this European story in the background and saying, these are the people who have come. Look at all the Brahmins that you know. Oh, really? They have come from Iran. Iran. Oh, really? I mean, you go and hear their stories 400 years, 500 years, they have been sitting here like anybody else that you see. All these stories which have no historical evidence and they are sold as true history of this country. And, buy this and make joke of people who have been peacefully, happily living. I don't think, see, we must understand this. See, this is how colonialism has changed our thinking.
Yeah.
See, I'm not really making it into some kind of an ideological story. But our social scientific stories are of this kind. Whether you are left, right, whatever, this is the story that we are selling in the name of science. And
Yeah.
this is not science. This is dogma. Right? I
But
mean, we need to really get out of it.
one thing about
Yes.
coastal Karnataka is that they do not fall into the trap of the fault lines. They're very united. Politically, they may vote for whoever they want to, but as a community, I think they're very strong because they've also faced a lot of invasions. And when they face invasions, I mean, they face it as a community. Everybody is oppressed and enslaved. So there is a sense of unity, and I only understood this when I stayed for many years in Karavali, Karnataka. Until then, I would only come across news reports which said that this is the coastal communal bastion, this is the RSS bastion where Muslims are suffering, and those kind of narratives used to flourish.
No, see, that is how people are discussing the stories today about the Kantara's success throughout India and also outside India. it has been sold as an increasing right-wing shift. For example, in the in the attitude,
Yeah.
in the entertainment. I mean, this is how people have been talking. But on the contrary, now something that we must actually we are missing out in this entire debate. Now, if you look at in last 2 decades of Indian cinema, what kind of cinemas are becoming success and what kind of cinemas are not, actually is telling you the kind of things that are required. See, earlier people had very little choice in terms of choosing cinema. Now there are, Rishab, Rakshit, I mean, all these new people who are coming. In South, there are tremendous experiment that they're doing. They're producing colorful, rich cinemas, and people are loving. I mean, even take earlier cinema that these guys have done. Sarkari Hiriya Prathamik Pathshala, for example. I mean,
Fantastic
this has
movies.
got the, yeah.
No, no,
So this
fantastic
has got
movies. Yeah.
the fantastic. I mean, these cinemas. So we should ask this question: what is that which is making Indian audience to get attracted towards such movies? See, look at even in Telugu last year blockbuster, Akhanda, Nandamuri Balakrishna cinema. What made people to watch such a movie when all big time investments in Bollywood are actually showing a flop? The Nandamuri Balakrishna's movie is actually becoming a super hit. What is that audience choosing? Why are they watching such things? See, look at for Kantara. Every one post in Facebook, of this third class rate, increases 100 people going and watching. I mean, it is really, I mean, it is actually pointing you towards something. This is not right wing shift or left wing shift. It is saying that there are movies. This is like performance, no? So, performance which are actually making people to connect with their world. I mean, these movies are striking cards with them.
Correct.
They're finding, oh, this is mine. Oh, I have this experience. Oh, I can recognize this. So you replace Kola and put any other, ritual performance in the same story, still it will be attractive. No. I
Right.
mean, in India, you see, if you take this, I mean, you can replace Kola and put another 100 rituals in that in India.
Yeah.
I mean, the story remains the same. So that's why it's a pan Indian attractive movie.
In
They
fact,
connect with people.
when I read some of the criticisms, I was surprised because one element was left out. Without spoiling the movie a lot for our audience, let me reveal a little bit of it. There is one man who plays a Muslim who is a part of the community and he takes part in the kola and everything. I was, if you point out saying that if this is a Brahminical upper caste Hindu ritual that is being imposed, then A, why is there a Muslim man? And I know the response to it also what it will be. It will be that the Hindus want representational Muslims as the faces to show their secular identities. I think the playbook is so well written that even people who don't are not politically aware of what these people are up to know that this is the standard response for anything that happens.
No, it is indeed true because take in South Canada, you see, there are Muslims and Christians who are part of the ritual, not just the participant. They're part. They have a role to play in that, and they really do it because they have a significant role without which some of the colas cannot be completed. It depends, not in every place. In my village, for example, in our village, we have Muslims in our village. They are part of our routine activity that we do. Like everybody, they also come and participate. They play their role. And in fact, we don't see them as Muslim as a separate religion, etc. But we are that is in yet another jati. Like that is how we understand it. See, we don't have this conception of religion. I mean, this is how we do. There is no assimilation business here. There is no assimilation. There is no suppression, oppression, compression. Nothing is there. I mean, this is a. I mean, for I mean, for 1 century story that you can grapple now with the people who are 80 years old, they will tell you the same story. Go back a
Yeah,
little further, you will get the same story. Last 40 years story that I can tell you in my experience. When did it happen? Sometime in the time in the immemorial. If it is historical, you should be able to prove it. When no,
correct.
you can't prove it. I mean, it is a story, and you want people. You have so. I mean, people have sold it, and people have bought it, and that's exactly the failure and the dead end of such social, unscientific story as scientific story has come there. And that's why look, people respond is independent of what is being written in Facebook, Twitter, and these news magazines. People are simply not bothered because
Correct.
they are just loving this movie. They wanted to enjoy this movie, and they're coming. And some people are buying tickets. Tickets are not available for next 1 week if you want to book.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that is the response. I mean, so I mean, you see, movie criticism, movie reflection is about what is that which is attracting people to come here. Why are they engaging with it? How to appreciate the movie. No, I mean, you see, these conversations are not about that. There is a standard story. So they have seen patriarchy there. Okay, I mean, in any
Yeah.
case, when in the whole Hindu society, Indian society is patriarchal. Now, then seeing one movie as patriarchy, there is nothing new because everything in our world is patriarchal. No? There is no additional Brahminical patriarchy is also there.
Yeah.
God knows what it is, but nonetheless, there are people who say that there is something called Brahminical patriarchy. Basically, this debate is not about understanding two important aspects. One, appreciating a cinema, which is fantastic, and second, reflecting about what is making the cinema such a wonderful piece of art.
Right.
Now, except for these two questions, they have discussed every damn shit that you could actually see in this. So, I mean, that actually, on a very serious note, it tells you that how deeply colonial we are. Because see, this is not something that we should be wasting time on debating. But our maximum energies go in debating these issues.
But
Right?
you
And
can't
we
keep
wanted to
quiet about it.
forcefully say, yeah, yeah.
No, no, you can't keep quiet about it because otherwise,
Of
like a
course,
broken
I mean,
record,
you're
they'll keep on
disturbed.
going on.
You're disturbed because it is about my deva. It is my tradition. Do you think that Panjurli is not part of my life? I don't belong to South Canara because the number of years my connection with South Canara, I studied there. I mean, how can you say that it is not part of my life? I mean, you are making comment derogatory remarks on my tradition. Obviously, I mean, I am also tempted. I mean, that's precisely why I am responding today. But the point is, what should we be discussing? How do we produce a piece of art in which people feel happy? I mean, that should have been the focus. And what
Yeah.
is the role of Kantara in producing such a piece of art? No, nobody is asking this question.
No, but I think journalists are trained this way because for somebody who's personally gone through that, initially you did not have a lot of. If you look at the film review phenomena of late, it's just been the last 5 6 years since it's been happening. Because earlier journalists used to be some from some or the other background. Anybody could be a journalist. You could be an engineer, you could be a doctor who's disinterested in medicine, you could be somebody who studies arts, history, and then from your own knowledge base, you would specialize in what you want to report on or write on. Today, there are dedicated journalism schools, and in journalism schools, we go through training for film appreciation. Now, it is anything but appreciation in that movie. Basically, you're made to watch a movie twice or thrice, um, and then you have to go frame by frame and you have to identify certain problems with it. So when your entire objective in journalism is to problematize something, then I think that's the fundamental uh, approach that is wrong entirely. And people feel that we are pro-establishment or we don't have the spine to question any traditions or governments for that matter. But I think, instead of being compulsive contrarians, I would like to be critical when and where it is necessary, whether people feel happy with it or not.
But I will make a slight twist to what you have said. This is the phenomena of journalists being trained and this tendency, though recent. But see, I will tell you the story of looking at India began few centuries back. Now, what began as this kind of a story of understanding, selling their experience of India as some kind of the truth of this India, was institutionalized through British education since 1835. Now, the more and more gross enrollment ratio in the university, more number of social scientific ideas, more number of people write, and what you have is some kind of a European experience sold as the truth is one side. Second, you have this also, yesterday nights whatever happens in America gets imitated here. So there are journalism schools that teach how to look at art, how to look at it, art as social reform, etc. We look at art very differently than this. Now, in fact, if you actually put social
Right.
reform agenda in art, its life is very limited. We are not going to take it so seriously, right? Art is meant for a completely different purposes in our tradition.
Correct.
Now, we wanted to sell this. That's why in Kannada, you have Khadgavagali Kavya. I mean, of course, Europe might have had its contest. I mean, it might be useful in Europe. I mean, we don't see that way. As a consequence, what has happened, the dead end of such an idea has come. But what we must remember, Sharon, at this point in time, is the source of all this story comes from the social scientific understanding of the world. For all these attitudes, imitation that we do of America, etc., the necessary contents come from social science, and the social science is the colonial story. Now, until and unless we make an attempt to break it and start bringing what we are, who we are, why we are, whatever we are, until and unless we create alternative story, because even if you tomorrow wants to change, what stories you have? Now, even though you might say Hindu Dharma, but the way Hindu Dharma used is like a religion, no?
Yeah.
Right? What choice do you have? I mean, do we have other alternatives way? Of course, recently there is a very
No,
small group
I
of
am
people
so afraid of using terms these days. If I say Hinduism, the right wing crowd gets, gets going at me. They say that I'm too anglicized. If I say Hindutva, the left loses their mind, saying that I'm a Hindutwadi. If I use Hindu Dharma, somebody problematizes that also. So these days, which is what I miss that fluidity. I miss that lack of cohesion that used to exist, where you could describe anything in the way that you want and you're allowed to practice and preach whatever you want.
See, we are losing language to talk about it. We don't have a proper language to talk about it. So, one of the dangers that we have is this social scientific inquiries are depriving us because it is forcing us to speak one language or the other. So, you're
Because there
forced
is
to
a
take a
certain
position, right or wrong.
superstructure imposed by sociologists in India.
I mean, I wouldn't say that way. I mean, I wouldn't give so much of power. But the story, mind you, is a 3 century, 4 century old story. It began. It is their experience of us, and it is nothing to do with me and you. And what we think is that we can correct the stories that they have written. No, you can't. It is their experience, and you can't do anything with it. We have to say new story of ourselves. We have to really develop science of society
Right.
in India. Okay, this is something that doesn't get into the head of people. Everything. See, that's why the way that I explained to you the traditions, for example. Now, see, if you see the lens of religion, why does he use so many gods? And all these are confusing. That's why you say
Uh,
Hinduism is amorphous. If it is amorphous, how do you know such a thing exists? So you can't do anything. All properties of the religion doesn't exist. Therefore, Hinduism is a religion. Come on, right? I mean, so this is how we are deprived of having a language. See, in our regional languages, I mean, regional language also has been now hampered, but it reduces the burden a little bit. But there also, if you use Hindu Dharma, you run into the same problem,
right.
right? So I think that is the best thing that we can reflect about this entire discourse on the
Absolutely. And the only appeal right now would be to people to watch the movie once again and watch it as many times as you want, because the interpretations every time you watch a movie are going to be different, especially if it's a really well made movie like Kantara.
they will appreciate more and more. More times they
Yeah.
watch, they will appreciate more.
So, and please do let us know what you thought about it, what your thoughts are, and do watch the movie. And hopefully, we'll have the makers of the movie with us very soon sometime. They've been touring all around India, so they've told us that we'll be doing this very soon. Chetraji, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Sharma.